All right, everybody. Hope you're well. It's Professor Ellis recording our next video for week 2, which is the strategy outline or the strategic planning section of our class for Intro to PR, the Maymester edition. And I think I've been sharing with you throughout the past 2 weeks that chapters 11, 12, 13, and 14 are segmented into the ROPE process: research, objectives, planning, and evaluation. And this plan that you will put together for your final project is also split into those sections, all right? So we're going to go through each of the sections here to help you decide and to have a little bit more understanding about how to complete your project for your final. Sections 1 and 2 are research. It's your ROPE process. Sections 3, 4, and 5 are your objectives section, the O. Sections 6, 7, and 8 are your P, which stands for planning or programming. And then sections 9 and 10 are E, evaluation. Refer back to week 1 when I introduced to you the ROPE or the Rossi method, and that those methods are regularly used and always relied upon in public relations. So all of the experiences that you will have either doing the work or learning the work will feature that kind of model. So let's jump right into it. The first section here, I feel like I need to make this a little smaller. All right. The first section here is in the R process is the problem. I explained to you that a problem is either an obstacle or an opportunity. So as you think about the small business or the nonprofit that you might want to write a strategic PR plan for, you want to think about, hey, what opportunities could exist? You can create an opportunity if you like, just kind of brainstorm to yourself or to a friend or to a classmate. You can get creative and just make up something, use your imagination and say, you know, if I were working with this nonprofit or this small business, this local business, what kind of big PR project would I like to see them do? And what could enhance their business? What could get them out of trouble? What could improve their relationship with their consumers? What good things do they have going, but they need more good things going, right? So thinking, what's the problem or what's the opportunity or the obstacle here? So the first thing you'll write is a situation analysis. That's exactly what it says. It is the situation, it's analysis of the situation. So tell us, what is the situation? What is happening at this very moment within this organization? A situational analysis is just about maybe a page, and it explains, or a page, half a page actually, for this assignment. You're just explaining what's the situation currently, what is the problem, what's going on. You're not implying any solution. You're not going to recommend any solution. It's too early. This is just section 1 of the document, the presentation. So you want to explain, you know, what's going on right now? What's the situation at this very moment? What information will present to the reader that there is a problem, whether it's obstacle or an opportunity, there is a problem with this organization. Here's what has happened, and here's where they are, and here's what this plan will help them do. So as you write your situation analysis, what you want to think about is developing something called a problem statement. And a problem statement is essentially, it's just a part of the situational analysis. It's the theme of the situational analysis. It's written present tense. It's describing the situation, it's describing the problems in very specific and or measurable terms. It does not, as I said earlier, imply any solution. It does not place blame, and it describes what was learned perhaps in the situation analysis. So think of your problem statement as like paragraph 2, okay? So you've got the situation analysis, and then you don't have to label your problem statement, but just make sure that there's a nice little paragraph tucked in there that describes now that we've We've said that this is a situation. What came out of that situation? Did we learn that we need more of something or less of something, or we need to address something? That's what your problem statement is for. Again, a problem statement is not labeled. It's just kind of this nondescript paragraph that supports the situation analysis. All right. But as you write it, here's some questions that can help you. What's happening now? What's the source of the problem? Where is the problem? When is it a problem? Who is it affected? How are they affected? And why is this such a concern to the organization and its publics? All right, so this kind of helps you really kind of sentence for sentence, honestly, break down your situation analysis. So let's just say that we were working for the Red Cross, okay? Or Lifeblood or something like that. And the director of the program says, our problem is that we need more blood. We can use all you get, or all you can get. That's kind of vague. We can use whatever you can get, right? So how do we measure what you can get against what they can use? Remember, as we pursue mutually beneficial relationships with publics, right? Through our public relations strategies and tactics and things of that nature, we also have to make sure that the things that we're doing are measurable. So that's really kind of a blanket statement. And so it's up to you now to figure out, okay, how do we craft how do we craft a plan perhaps first to help us think about this differently? So problem statement here, if we were to write a strategic plan about how to deal with an issue like this, and it doesn't have to be for something like this, it's not a heavy problem. You know, we're running out of blood. It's not a heavy problem, but it actually could turn into a major problem, because look at this. Blood supplies run short by an average of 100 units each month during June, July, August, and December, resulting in emergency room delays, postponed elective surgeries, and expensive blood transfers. So think about it. As you write your problem statement, you're almost kind of giving yourself a hint to maybe an objective or some strategies and tactics that you might need to use. Why? Because you've done the research, and this is your first section. So this is the R in the rope process. All right. So you've done the research, and the research says that blood supplies run short by an average of 100 units each month. It tells you during what months it runs short, and it tells you what the shortage results in. Now let's go back and break that down. It gives you an average of how many units run short each of those 4 months. So 4 months out of the year, you have blood supplies that run short. The Red Cross does not have a full supply that they need. And as a result of not having what they need, they have these issues, the 3 issues that you see here. So think about it. What's happening during June, July, August, December? People are going on vacation, school's out. It's the holiday season. People are hanging out at the pool, on the beach, just kind of hanging out, chilling. They may still be going to work every day, but a lot of the major day-to-day importances aren't that important during the summertime and during the December, Christmas, New Year holiday, right? So people, those kind of urgencies and things of that nature, notices and notifications that we are used to responding to and things like that, we're just not checking for during the summer times and during the holidays, right? So it means that this organization runs short and that they cannot connect to their consumer, or they're not their consumer, their donors, you should say, donors, that's a great word. Their donors as quickly or as effective as they're accustomed to. They have to work harder during those months. And the scary part of it is, well, wow, we can't service the community or the hospitals or, you know, the doctor's offices or the ER rooms, etc., or the ER, we can't really service them as much because we've run out of blood. So there could be a delay, which could definitely impact someone. Someone might need to have a serious surgery, whether it's elective or not. Someone might have to have a surgery, and they may have said, you know, I'm on summer break. I'm going to have my surgery on summer break. I'm going to have my surgery before school starts. Now the school's out, June. I'm going to start my surgery before school comes back, August. I'm going to have my surgery. Oh, while my family is on vacation and there's someone to help me, I'm going to be taken care of. I'm going to have my surgery during the summertime. Same thing with Christmas. Same thing with December. So what do you do for those people who said, I'm going to take my holiday time during Christmas, I'm going to take off early and have a surgical procedure? If the procedure requires additional blood or some type of blood related process, then those surgeries it's likely that they could be postponed. And then transfers. Transfers are always needed when there are major surgeries or some type of emergency, actually. Transfusions and things of that nature. Really serious surgeries, right? And for many folks, whether insurance covers it or not, it can be expensive, all right? So now you see why we did that public opinion presentation, because you may not think that fits extremely well, but it actually fits perfectly, because it helps you start to think about issues and how business runs and how organizations operate and how issues within community and in society and in culture have a trickle down effect throughout our organization, just the way we live our lives, right? So see how we kind of broke that problem statement down to really understand what happens when our publics aren't being communicated to effectively. All right, there's impact here. And I won't drag this one out. I'm gonna try to go through this one a little faster because I think it's pretty simple. Not pretty simple. I think it's the outline here is pretty detailed, because essentially what you can do as you're writing your plan, you can use these questions here. I don't want you to copy and paste them, but you can use these questions to craft your answers. Use these questions as prompts. This is a prompt, okay? So use these questions here on the right-hand column of each section, through step 10, 9 or 10. I can't remember how I have it laid out at the end. I know it's 10 at the beginning. I can't remember if I have 9 and 10 combined at the end or not, but you'll see. So use these questions to help you as prompts. You don't have to repeat them. You don't have to copy and paste them. Just use them to answer your questions in paragraph form, right? So we've gone through that process. We've identified what the problem is. We've written the situation analysis. We now want to identify the goal. What is the goal of the plan? What do we want this plan to do? That's essentially what you're going to write. What do we want this plan to do? Make sure that your goal is, what do we want this plan to do? What do we want it to accomplish? And when do we want to accomplish it? Your goal, although it says goals, should actually be the goal of the plan, and you only need one big goal. All right. So no need to make multiple goals. You just need one big goal. What is the goal of this plan that you are writing? What do we want this plan to do? And then objectives, though, you need to have at least 3 objectives. Now, what your objectives do is take that goal down and figure out how to make that goal come to pass. You've got 3 things that you want to think about. What do we want people to think? What do we want people to feel? What do we want people to do? And I've said that before. So this one here is a do, right? This is an action objective. We want to increase the units of blood from local residents by an average of 100 units each month during June, July, August, and December. Now, we did one thing we left off is that we wanted to, we could have added by by a certain amount of time, by a deadline. But at least we've given the months that we want to increase the number of units by. And we've also identified where we want the blood to come from. That's very important when you're writing an objective, because let's go back. If you do not have the numbers and the people that you want to reach and the rate of change that you want, remember that rate of change, the rate of change that you want, or the time frame that you want to accomplish it in, you can't measure. You can't measure. And your plan is purposeless if you can't measure your progress. If you can't measure up against your objectives, the plan is a waste. Keep that in mind. And I'm going to be looking for your objectives to be measurable. How do you make a measurable objective? Of course, first, you want to start with the word to. Objectives are bulleted for the most part, and they start with the word to, and they're followed by an accomplishment or an action verb for the most part. But you can still say to establish, to develop, to create, right? You don't have to say to push or anything like that. You don't want anything that is ambiguous, an ambiguous type goal. Or figurative, an ambiguous verb or some type of figurative verb. You definitely want to focus on verbs that that show accomplishment. I have a file in Canvas under the class files, and it should say action verbs for planning or something of that nature, all right? You want to specify a single key outcome, not we want to increase blood and we want to make sure the blood is a certain type. No, that's not a focused objective. Your objective has one thing that you want to accomplish. You want to state that as a singular outcome. Of course, as I said, you want it to be able to be measured and verified. You want to put a target date on it as well. As I said earlier, what do we want people to think or know? Think and know is the same. Think and know is the same thing. Think, feel, do, or know, feel, do. What do you want them to know, feel, and do? And remember, know or think, meaning, awareness. Feel is attitude or acceptance, one or the other. And then do is action. Those are your three objectives. And it could be, what do we need? What do we need to know as our organization? What do we want our people to feel? If you're a program or your plan that you're writing is more internal. Now notice the objective for this Red Cross scenario is a do. They're probably going to write a second objective or fourth objective to focus on what they want the people to do, what they want their donors to do, right? But the first wrote an objective that focused on what they need to do. They need to increase this. And how are they going to increase this? Then they'll write a strategy and a tactic that focuses on that. But in fact, they actually don't even have to write another objective about what they want their publics to do, because they were very clear about what they need to do first. And then so because they said they want to increase the units of blood donated by local residents by a certain time and by a certain amount, now all they have to do is to create a strategy that gets them in front of the local residents so that the local residents can get them the 100 units they need for each of those 3 months. So they actually don't even need an objective that focuses on what they want the people to do. They need an objective that focuses on what they need to do, and then they'll get a strategy to attract those local residents that they wrote the objective for. All right. Let's keep going. So here's the anatomy of the objective. Something is missing here. My green is missing. I knew something was missing. All right. So you see kind of the breakdown here. To increase the units, nature of intended change. Where's the change coming from? The change is what we need to increase. The verb, right? What's that to? To blank. The nature of the change is to create, to establish, to develop, to implement, to produce, whatever. And then the target public, you always want to list your target public, local residents. And then you have the average of 100 units. This is the amount of the desired change. So we said we want to increase something. Well, by what amount? There we go. So if we're saying we're going to increase something, you've got to give an amount. You got to say, oh, well, probably, how will we know if people knew something ahead of time or had something ahead of time? That's why that research section needs to be clear. So we can just guess and say, we did a survey, or we realized that only 50% of our customers were really coming in and buying our new coffee or our staple coffee. They didn't really know. I don't think people knew that we had the new coffee. And so now what we want to do is increase the amount of people who are aware of our new menu or our new whatever, right? And you can maybe calculate that by saying, oh, the coffee shop has about 100 customers per day. And 50% of them buy our old whatever, buy the things that we've had on the menu forever. And the other half, you know, they just kind of buy a little bit of everything. And some of them might buy the new things on the menu. So you just kind of would sparse those numbers out and just say, well, you know, if we see 50% of the people buying the same thing over and over and over again, then we want to try to attack that other chunk and introduce to them this new part of the menu. Now, notice I have down here knowledge of outcome to be achieved. What you see here is what you want them to do. So although this objective is what we need to do, we need to increase, right? But look, this isn't a knowledge to be achieved, knowledge outcome to be achieved. This is an action outcome to be achieved. So how do I write an objective that my organization needs to focus on? Because it's not targeting the people. So I write an objective that my organization focus on, and how do I still have an outcome to be achieved? Where do you think that is? I forgot to put it in green, but where do you think that is? It's blood donated. What should be green is blood donated, okay? That should be green. Because we can say to increase units of what? Blood donated. We could say to increase units of blood of, I don't know, where else would it come from? Right? Blood donated, blood transferred, or blood shipped in from another hospital or another nonprofit organization, or it could say a little bit of anything that's related to that industry. How do they get blood other than donations from people, from local residents? So the action to be achieved is donated. We don't want to just increase the units of blood from another organization that was loaned to us. We want it donated. So again, kind of breaking down everything word for word to show you how the objective looks. So again, the R, we're done with the R now. Now we're moving into the O. The goals, objectives, and, oh, I'm sorry, we moved out of the O. Now we're moving into the P, strategies and tactics. Think about this. Everything is a funnel. So you're starting from your research, right? And you're picking apart the research, you're analyzing things, you're trying to figure out what's going on with your organization. You got your SWOT analysis, you're looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and stuff like that. I can't remember if I require a SWOT, but on the example, I think there was a SWOT. I just can't remember on the assignment if I put one on there or not. Just govern yourselves accordingly on that. If there was one on the assignment in Canvas, to include your SWOT in the first section under, say, your objectives, that's fine. But I don't think I require a SWOT for this particular one. I think I showed you what a SWOT was, your strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. And that goes in your research section, all right? Now, let's get into P, planning and programming. This is where you do your strategies and tactics. And as I was saying, everything is a trickle-down effect. It's funneled down. So you've got your strategies answer your objectives. So if my objective was to increase the units of blood donated by local residents on average of 100 units in those consecutive, or not consecutive, in those 4 months, then I need to come up with a strategy that'll help me figure out how to approach communication with my local residents. So we said that we wanted the blood from them, right? So we've got to come up with a strategy that will communicate to them. And your strategy is usually you're going to develop some events, you're going to create some outreach messaging, you're going to, it's the thing that you're going to do, all right? It's the what. Your tactics are the how. Your tactics are the tools that you use. So if we say one of our strategies is to develop a series of events that engage, community events that engage with the local residents, then our tactics are, we tell you what those events are. We come up with those events and tell you how we're gonna work them. See how each piece is like a little even smaller piece? So you start out with the big research details, you then funnel through, get a little bit more detail with the goals and objectives. Your research has informed what goal and objectives you need to create. And then your objectives then give way to what kind of program or campaign element or approach you need to develop, right? And then your tactic tells you what is the tool you're going to use. Okay. And the questions are here. And again, you can keep, you can just use these questions to go into detail about what you're responding to. Now, one section in here is your target publics. And I can't remember if I have a specific slide in here for target publics, but we've already kind of talked about publics and audience and things of that nature. So just make sure in that section, you go into detail about the kinds of people that you want to talk to. It can be a variety of different types of people, different audiences. You might have an external one, you might have an internal one, you might have 3 or 4 different external audiences that you feel like are necessary for to achieve what you're trying to achieve. So let's look at action strategy. So there are 2 things here. What you will see is action strategy. It really just means strategy. And then your communication strategy, that means tactics. All right. So this is labeled action strategy, but it's truly your strategy. It just means what actions will you take? What will you produce? What will you create? What will you change? What procedures, what policies, what will you create? What will you develop? What will you establish in order to get your objectives done? And then your communication strategy, which is tactics. What tools do you need? What items do you need? Do you need a press release? Do you need events? Do you need interviews? Do you need to go on a media relations tour? Do you need donations? And how are you going to get those things? What tools do you use to get them? That's your tactics section. There are your questions. And I showed you an example. I showed you a final PowerPoint. In the assignment, I showed you the example of what a PowerPoint looks like, and then I showed you an example of what an actual plan looks like. Now, neither are perfect, but they give you a good starting ground for being able to do this assignment well, and to be able to be successful and make a pretty good grade, okay? So you've got the questions. Again, the questions just frame. It just frames everything you need to address, okay? You just follow the questions and you'll be fine. When you look at your tactics, consider these things like how much media do you need? How much social media do you need? How much traditional media, TV, radio, print would you need? Or do you need any advertising? Do you need to do some billboards or some commercials? Do you need to do some sponsored posts on social media? How often do you need to do that? What's the impact are you looking for? And now we're getting into, this is the last part of the P, which is implementation. Your implementation is just essentially a calendar. It's a calendar. It's like a little timeline. It's like a little bullet list. It tells you all the strategies and tactics you said you were going to do. Now put dates to them. Put some dates to them. Put some phases to them. Put some deadlines and some time frames to them. That's really it with implementation. And then you can maybe put in a paragraph or 2 about how the things are going to roll out, you know, how your messages are they going to overlap, when are your stops, when are your starts, and things of that nature. So you're matching your messages to the actual tools that you're using to get those messages out, and you're adding dates and time frames to them. That's what implementation is about. This is also a part of implementation. If you like, you can address this here. The numbers of people, this can kind of go into evaluation. I don't expect you to get into this really detailed, but I think this will, you know, as you think about implementation, and even as you think about the evaluation, this might give you some insight too, thinking about the number of people who change their attitudes and opinions, the number of people who learn information, the number of people who repeat behavior, come and keep coming back to your organization, keep buying your product, okay? So these are things that you actually can use in evaluation. So we're at the end, evaluation plan or evaluation and feedback and program adjustment. So those are two different things. Let me clarify. Your evaluation says you go back to your objectives and say, how will we measure? It's right here. We'll be looking at these things based on what you created now, based on the objectives that you created, the 3 or 4 objectives that you create. You'll say, where are you going to use it? We're going to measure the number of this. We're going to measure the number of that. We're going to be monitoring this and that. That's your evaluation plan. And then your feedback plan says, as we watch this process go on, as we implement this plan and we get results of the evaluation, how will we report that out, and how will we make adjustments if we see we're not meeting our goal, or if we see where our objectives are kind of okay? What adjustments do we need to make? So some of the things, a little bit more about evaluation, some of the things that you can consider are how you distribute your messages and the placement of the messages. How many are you going to place and where are you going to place them? As I said, using media, using events, even if it's something internal where you have a town hall meeting for your employees, or where you do training for your employees, that's all inclusive too. Thinking about these things. You're not going to do a content analysis, but this is some things good to know as you consider what implementation and evaluation look like. When you look at your final section for evaluation and feedback, these are some things that you can consider. You know, what are the inputs, the things that we're going to put in, what are the things that we're going to put out, and then what are the outcomes with all of that. So I don't expect you to have a heavy evaluation section, just a really simple summary of how you would evaluate your plan and adjust when you get feedback, how often you're going to report to the leadership of the organization what's going on with the plan. And that's essentially it, you all. That's it for this week. I have, I think, 2 more lectures to share with you, maybe just one. I think it's just one left. And then we'll be wrapped up. And then on Wednesday, when we do our live session, I can answer any and all questions for you. All right, I hope you're doing well. I'll talk to you soon.